Chapter 1: What was never meant to happen. Lina did not speak during the drive back to the guest house. The city lights stretched past the window in blurred lines, distant and unreachable, like something that did not belong to her world. Her brothers spoke quietly in the front, small, ordinary conversations, but their voices felt far away, as if separated by more than just distance. She sat still, hands folded neatly in her lap, posture composed, gaze fixed ahead. Nothing about her had changed. And yet, everything had. Her mind returned to that moment again. Not the panic. Not the mistake. Him. The way he had stopped. The way he had lowered his gaze instantly, without hesitation. The way he had not spoken, not even her name. Respect. Without effort. Without display. It unsettled her more than anything else could have. Because it meant one thing. He had not forgotten. And neither had she. Her fingers tightened slightly. Why is he here? Why now, after everything? After leaving without a word. After promising. And disappearing. Lina. She turned slightly. Adil, seated in the passenger seat, was watching her. You're quiet. The others glanced back too, except Hamza. He didn't turn. His eyes met hers only through the rearview mirror. Always aware. Always watching. I'm fine, Lina said softly. Her brothers were her safety. Her shield. The one place in the world where she never had to question her security. She had been raised that way. Not out of fear, but out of history. Her family carried wealth, influence, and a name that had survived generations. But it had not come without cost. Long before Lina was born, her grandfather had been forced to flee Afghanistan after a violent family feud took everything from him: land, power, and lives. He rebuilt everything in Pakistan from nothing. But men like her father, Karim Mirzai, understood something clearly. Some conflicts do not end. They wait. And in families like theirs, women were not just loved. They were protected. Guarded. Preserved with a vigilance that bordered on sacrifice. Because to them, honor was not a word. It was responsibility. It was survival. And Lina was part of that honor. Adil continued watching her a moment longer. He noticed things others didn't. Small shifts. Subtle silence. Being closest to her in age made him understand her in ways the others couldn't. Too many people? He asked. Yes. She said with a smile. It was true. Just not complete. He nodded and turned back without pressing further. None of them did. They never forced her to speak. They waited. And Lina trusted them for that. The guest house gates opened slowly as they arrived. It wasn't home, but it was secure. Rumi's family was just as influential, just as careful. Guards stood at every entrance. The inner courtyard was reserved strictly for women, no men allowed, not even staff. Safe. Controlled. Expected. Hamza parked the car, and Lina stepped out, adjusting her scarf immediately. The familiar motion grounded her, restoring something that had slipped earlier that night. The moment she stepped inside, the stillness wrapped around her. Here, she was unseen. Untouched. At ease. I'll rest, I have to wake early tomorrow. She said quietly. Her brothers nodded. Tomorrow was the wedding. Her room upstairs was neat, prepared, untouched. Everything in place. Unlike her thoughts. She removed her scarf slowly, placing it carefully on the dresser. Her reflection stared back at her, calm, composed, unchanged. But her eyes lingered. Searching. Remembering. Her hand rose unconsciously to her hair. She remembered how it had fallen. Loose. Uncontrolled. Visible. Seen. Her hand dropped instantly. That moment had been a mistake. And yet, It had revealed something far more dangerous than exposure. It had revealed him. She sat on the edge of the bed. 3 years. She had not spoken his name in 3 years. Barely allowed herself to think it. Ayaan. The word felt distant now. But the memory did not. She closed her eyes briefly. She had waited. Longer than she should have. He had promised to come, to send a proposal, to do things properly, respectfully. The way she required. The way she deserved. And then, nothing. No message. No explanation. Just silence. 3 years of silence. In her world, that meant something. It meant he had chosen not to return. So she had done what she had to do. She had moved forward. 8 months ago, Omar Hussein's family had come with a proposal. At first, her mother refused. She knew. She had always known. But time had passed. And waiting had limits. Lina had agreed. Not out of love. But out of reason. Omar was everything a family would want. Respectful. Educated. Stable. Kind. A good man. A safe future. And Lina believed marriage was not built on fantasy. It was built on stability. Choice. Responsibility. Still, she had never felt what she once felt when someone simply understood her. Her thoughts drifted again. Back to Islamabad. To the first time she had noticed him. Not because he spoke to her. But because he didn't. He observed. Adjusted. Respected. When others pushed boundaries, he stepped back. When she created distance, he honored it. There had been a day during a joint class discussion, heated, crowded, uncomfortable. She had withdrawn. And without drawing attention, he had changed the dynamic. Created space. Made it easier for her to exist without being seen. That was when she had begun to trust him. Carefully. Quietly. And eventually. He had asked. Not directly. Not improperly. But clearly enough. She had given him the only answer she could. Bring your proposal to my family. She said as she kept her eye low so won't be looking eye to eye. He had agreed. And then. He vanished. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Lina. It was Hamza. She stood immediately. And answered. Yes. He opened the door slightly. And said. You left early. I was tired. She said. Again with smile. She liked to talk with smile. It made her feel easy and comfortable. He studied her. If something made you uncomfortable, he said and continued after a pause, you tell me. Not a question. A promise. Nothing happened, she replied with slight smile. And it was true. Nothing had happened. And yet, everything had changed. After he left, silence filled the room again. Lina exhaled slowly. Her life was structured. Protected. Certain. There was no place in it for unfinished stories. No place for men who disappeared. And returned without warning. But her mind betrayed her. Again. Back to that moment. That look. That certainty. Ayaan. Or whoever he was now. Because something had changed. Not his respect. Not his understanding. Something deeper. Something hidden. And Lina knew one thing with quiet certainty. This was not coincidence. She stood and performed wudu, letting the cool water steady her thoughts. She washed her hands, face, and arms in a quiet, practiced rhythm. It was something she had done countless times before prayer, an act of cleansing and preparation that brought a sense of order back to her mind. The repetition of it, the simple sequence, helped settle what felt scattered inside her, pulling her back into focus. Wudu was part of the preparation for Salah, Islamic prayer, a required step before standing in prayer, where a person cleanses themselves physically as a way of entering a focused, disciplined state. She moved through it without thinking too much, letting the routine take over what her thoughts could not. She changed into simple clothes and prayed, grounding herself in something unshakable. When she finally lay down, the ceiling above her felt distant. Tomorrow would be busy. The wedding. The family. Routine would return. This would fade. It had to. Because whatever had entered her life tonight did not belong there anymore. And she would not let it stay. Even if a small part of her already knew. It wouldn't leave so easily. Because this time, the past had come back for a reason.